Parents know how difficult it is to have to travel with children, but what about all the gear, the car seats? What do you do about the crib? And then they get so dirty, gross. Well, we've got our next guest. He's going to tell us how you can solve that problem. Hello, hello. We are here today with Josh Plummer with Destination Baby, and we're going to talk about his business, how he grew it, what they do. They found a unique niche in the market for sure. Yeah. But Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Good, I'm glad. So really quick for my audience, if you could tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, of course. Well, my name is Joshua Plummer, and my company is Destination Baby Co. At a high level, in a very simplistic view, we rent and clean baby gear.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the problem is it's because it's really dirty.
Yes, yeah. So on the traveling side, which is a majority of our business, we found that traveling with kids is a lot of work.
Yep.
And we started the business after my wife and I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and she outgrew her little foldable bassinet, and we needed to find something else. We found out that bringing all the gear and everything was like super, like a lot of work logistics-wise, but then also expensive. You had to check in all the gear, and then we didn't have everything we needed. So we found an option to rent it, and then we were sitting there at Thanksgiving, and we looked at each other and said, like, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so I've worked at a lot of like different places, but I said, like, babe, we can do this. You know, we have gear. Why can't we do this? And she's like, yeah, let's give it a shot. A few weeks later, we had our first order, and we started growing and growing. And after a few months, we're like, hey, this really has like some legs, and it's grown ever since. We've had like a super awesome journey as far as like how we've grown, and our team has grown, and it's great.
Okay. Well, so step back a little bit. You're like, you had your first order. Well, to get to your first order, tell us a little bit. Tell us about the journey. Like, how did it really start?
It really started. So it started out of our garage. We had a pack and play, and we got a few extra strollers, and we got a few pieces of gear. In our industry, there are two main platforms, similar to like Airbnb, where you create a profile and you can put your gear on there, just like Airbnb has all the properties on there. They don't own all the properties in the world. Mm-hmm. They just are a platform. So there are a few different platforms that we utilize to rent our gear, to showcase our gear. And it was...
So just to clarify, you guys were, like you mentioned Airbnb, you're renting gear that you already had, and then people would, so it was your personal gear?
Yeah, so at first it was our personal gear.
Got it.
And then we found that people typically, when they travel, they plan most of the time about 10 to 14 days in advance. There are super planners that are doing a month or two, and then they're obviously the last minute. But usually it's that 10 to 14 days. And so we created a profile, had a ton of gear on there, and because we had that gap and that leeway, if someone ordered something that we didn't have, then we could go out and purchase it. So we started. That's how we started building our inventory. On the platform right now, they're the biggest platform. There are about 14 other providers that do what we do. Within the first year, we grew to number one. And out of here, they've been doing it a few people have been doing it for a few years. And now we are not officially, but I think we're third in the country, the third largest in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how much gear is that?
Great question. Again, it started in the garage, and then it grew into my living room. And then we got, a few months later, like, hey, we need to expand. So I got a small storage unit, and then I needed a bigger one.
Wow.
And about 2 months ago, we finally moved into a large warehouse.
Okay.
Because I had multiple inventory everywhere is too much. So now I have like a 2,500 square foot warehouse that houses lots and lots of gear.
Wow. And you work with your wife, so you guys are partners on this.
Correct. Yeah. It's
Tell us about that.
It's a balance. It's definitely a balance. But through the journey, I've learned a lot about myself as an entrepreneur, and I've learned that there's different types of entrepreneurs, and in running and owning a business, especially with employees under you, you need to kind of like, there's different tasks. Obviously, everyone wears different hats, but to really kind of truly find out like what type of entrepreneur and leader that you are, I'm much different than my wife, and we definitely, fortunately, balance each other out. I'm much more of an integrator, if you will. So think of like the visionary,
right.
Excuse me. So I'm looking forward, doing bigger sales, bigger opportunities, growing the company, and my wife is more day-to-day logistics.
Yep.
And she has her hands in everything. She knows all the numbers, and she knows what's going on. She knows about orders. She knows about all that sort of stuff. So it's a great balance. And we, again, have our support staff who are phenomenal that help us out with that as well.
Great. Yeah, and so I take it you use EOS?
Yes.
I love
yes.
it.
It's
Love it. It shows.
That's a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
And that process, the EOS process, it's great. So
Good.
Yeah.
So for all the parents out there, just like you guys did, you kind of discovered it. How do you guys market a service like this?
Great question. Right now, majority of our marketing is coming from the platforms that we utilize. Because of some of their rules and because of the tools that they provide, especially like on the marketing side, like they take very high fees, which is frustrating to be honest. But they do a lot of the marketing. So they're doing the national marketing, and when people travel to San Diego, we're getting those orders, which is great. We obviously have our website, and a few months ago we launched the ability to order off platform, so directly through us. Obviously saves a lot of those fees.
Yep.
And now we have, again, multiple avenues of orders and people to find us.
Okay. So you went through the program here at the BBB, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a phenomenal experience. Sam and her team put on a great program. A lot of it, to be honest, it was a refresher for me, but I think in a good way, because was able to kind of take a step back and just like focus on the fundamentals. And then obviously like through networking and through speakers and people, I was able to learn a ton and then meet so many other, local companies, which was phenomenal. And I'm still friends with them, and we still text and utilize each other and give each other leads and feedback. So it's great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on it, but I was going to say, what's your biggest takeaway from going through the program? Fundamentals?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, fundamentals and just networking. I know it's very cliche, but I just, every event that I go to, it really leans into, it's about your network and who you know. And I've met so many people through BBB events, through Sam, through other people that I've met through these events, and I've gone to their events. And so it's just the networking aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit about the business and all the gear. What's the most popular thing that people are renting from you guys?
I would say our top two, which is probably a tie, are going to be car seats and full-size cribs.
Okay.
People like myself, parents, don't like traveling with it. With at least once you get past that second one, the second child, then you have 2 car seats, and then you have to lug it around. Even getting from the plane, picking up. There's a lot of logistics that goes into it. So we meet people at the airport. We meet people at the car rental center. We'll hand them the.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow, you hand deliver it.
We hand deliver everything.
Man, okay.
Yep. And then even after the pack and plays, a lot of vacation rentals, hotels, they have like small pack and plays, but usually that's depending on a lot of factors, but 1 or 2 years of age for the kids. After that, then they want something more comfortable that they're used to at home to make their stay feel like home, and we can provide that to them by providing full-size cribs and toys and high chairs and strollers, you name it. Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea I don't have children, so I wouldn't be looking for this stuff.
For sure.
But funny enough, I was just talking to a good friend of mine who is a new mother, and she was talking about what she's going to do about the car seat and the crib. It's funny that you mentioned those. So I'll have to tell her about your guys' your website and check it out, because I see the poor parents lugging all that stuff around.
It's a lot. And almost every trip you go to in the airport, you'll see at least one or two families of the dad with the backpack, and then you have the bringing the two carry-ons, and then you pushing the stroller, and the mom's got the baby strapped on. It's just like, it's a lot. We're there, we do it. I have a 4-month-old now as well. So
oh my gosh.
My wife's carrying him, I'm carrying the baby, pushing her in a stroller, and it's a lot. So we utilize the service as well whenever we travel, because we love to travel.
Yeah.
We'll rent whenever possible.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's awesome.
Well, so as we wrap up, what would you say along your entrepreneurial journey and working, putting this business together and being successful, what do you feel like was key to get started?
Yep.
And then key for where you're at now to keep you going?
Yeah, that's a great question. How to get started? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'll start there.
So we'll start there, yeah.
You need to find this is just a very personal, but you need to find something that you enjoy. Again, I know it's very cliche, but I enjoy what I do. I've probably held at least 10 or 15 jobs in my life in 10 or more industries, and their jobs and their paychecks and their necessities, but this is something that the entrepreneurial journey allows me to have as time with my family, and that's so important to me, and obviously an income. But I enjoy doing it, and I love helping families out. It's just it's very satisfying to me. So doing something that I love, not every task and every job is, and all the behind the scenes stuff, it's not all perfect, but it is something that I do enjoy. And then to really keep me going, having goals, having written down goals, and again, this book Traction that I would recommend to all of your listeners. It's by Gino Wickman. Phenomenal book. He did talk a lot about the EOS process, and through there he just helped structure how to set the goals in a way that was easy for me to understand and my team to understand. I implement a lot of those best practices in regards to his meetings, how we set those goals, and without there, we check in on those goals regularly and strive to push and meet those goals.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think in the beginning, it's passion, it's hard work. You're just doing what you know and you're figuring it out. But you're right, to really grow, you've got to have a system and structure. And that's great that you're using EOS.
Yeah.
And a lot more small businesses are, and it makes a lot of sense. So.
For sure.
Great.
It's still a learning process, and we're growing, but it's fun.
Awesome. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You do have an offer for our audience.
Yes, I do.
If we can leave them with that.
Absolutely. I would like to offer 20% off gear rentals and gear cleanings, especially all your local families that have kids. They know those car seats get super dirty. Bring them over to us, and we'll definitely take care of your listeners.
That's great. All right. Well, we'll have the code in the show notes along with the link to your website so everyone can find that.
Yep.
But thanks so much, Josh. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Thanks.